Welcome back to another episode of the Millennial Minute. I'm David Grasso for Bold TV. Let's talk about homelessness. You already heard from our guest, Joe Collins. He's a congressional candidate out in sunny California. And over in cloudy and snowy New York, we have Ryan Adams. He's co-founder of HZQ Consulting. So, Ryan, what do you think about what Joe just said?
I mean, he wants to talk about this liberal mindset for spending money, but when it comes to the conservative record on homelessness, it's malfeasance. If you were a corporation, you would be shut down. And where's the free market there? We have a solution that works. It is consistently successful, and it's cheaper. When we put housing first in Utah, it was 11 times cheaper than dealing with homelessness in the way that you described. When we did it in Honolulu, where real estate costs are higher, it was 2 to 3 times cheaper. If we
So,
want to
Joe,
save, oh,
wait, I want to get to Joe here. So, Joe, you say that government programs haven't helped. Obviously, California has spent billions of dollars on this problem, and it doesn't seem to do anything, or at least not be working like Ryan suggests, right? So, what do you suggest in lieu of what the government's doing in California?
Well, I think that if Ryan's plan works, I think we should absolutely use it because what we're doing now is not working. They spent millions of dollars on research and planning without coming up with real solutions. And so we have to find real solutions to this homelessness problem. I know with taxes, it increases the cost of living. So is the restrictions on development. And it's not just here in California, it's there in New York as well. And what our government has done was they have made this problem a federal problem instead of keeping it at a state problem. And so we need to use Ryan's solutions, in my opinion, in order to combat this homelessness crisis.
Well, that's really interesting, Ryan. You're getting a conservative to agree with you. Why do you think that things like, and I've heard of this working well in Hawaii where doctors can script housing, right? Can you tell our audience a little bit of the cost of just having homelessness for the government, right? In terms of healthcare costs, public safety costs, et cetera. Can you go over those problems?
absolutely. So when we think about treating homelessness in the way that we did in the 80s and the 90s and the early 2000s, and even now, there's this whole means-tested approach. The idea is that you have to earn your housing. You have to prove that you're serious. But if you're living with a mental health issue, if you're living with an unstable working condition, if you're living with any sort of sobriety issue, getting stable is helped by the housing. So what you end up getting when you don't put a housing first model in place is someone using up the resources of someone at the Department of Homeless Services to try and get them housing, but then they relapse. And then they have to go to the hospital, and that hospital bill is paid by the state. And then they have to go to a charity, and all that donation money goes to taking care of them. And all these things compound, from public safety to paying the NYPD to deal with homelessness, which is not a good idea. There are better people to handle it. All these different things add to the cost of dealing with someone when we could just give them housing that we could pay developers to develop and actually change people's lives. There's generational trauma built into experiencing homelessness. We could be changing generations of American futures by building housing first.
So, Joe, the problem is so across the country now, though. You were suggesting that the state should handle it, but do we really need a national approach on this? Because it's not just LA and New York anymore. Even right here in Orlando, Florida, we have these same issues. How do we begin to turn the page and really help these people and be human and, really help ourselves, because our cities are becoming a little rough around the edges there?
Yeah, I understand that. And no, a federal approach will not work in state issues. And the reason why is because states has ability to govern their own states. What we have to do, because we cannot assume that every single person that is homeless has a mental illness, we have to start focusing on the people who are not mental ill, the people who need quality jobs, the people who need housing lower. I know here in California, when it comes to development, because we have so many restrictions, the cost of development goes up, which means the cost of living goes up because the developers take that cost and they put it back down to the people who are going to be the tenants of those properties. But in California, Gavin Newsom created a lot of restrictions. He increased taxes, which made a lot of businesses, a lot of quality businesses leave our states. And so we have to get it into these governors' heads that you cannot increase taxes hoping that you can improve the economy, because you're taking away from people who are already struggling. We have children who are homeless on the streets. We have entire families that are homeless on the streets. And the only way to get these people who are not mentally ill off the streets is by providing them quality jobs and a lower cost of living.
Can I agree
Yeah.
with Joe for a sec?
Yeah, go
Just,
ahead,
I
please.
mean, he had the kindness to agree with me, and he's absolutely right. One of the biggest issues that we've had here in New York is that the definition of affordable housing is this constant compromise between private interests who are developing things, public interests who are fighting for different kinds of programs in affordable housing, and you get things like in New York City, they were developing these super luxury apartments, like lock boxes for oligarchs, effectively, $1 billion buildings. But then they were putting 20% of that housing for affordable people, because someone who couldn't afford to live in New York City can now live on Park Avenue and shop in all those areas because we put 20% of the housing there. We should have just took the money that was going to go to paying this developer to build affordable housing and built actual affordable housing. The compromise is what destroyed the actual result we wanted.
Yeah, you know what's really interesting, guys, is homeless rates are really going up because real estate prices are high. So we really have to look at the original problem, right? The increased crime, increased homelessness, right, is a symptom of the problem, which is lack of affordable housing in this country, which I believe is fundamentally caused by zoning laws, by rules that don't really make sense for the modern economy. So we're out of time, guys, but I want to hear from both of you. Would you be for deregulating a lot of these stringent rules at the local level to allow more affordable housing to be built? We can start with you, Joe.
Yeah, I absolutely would agree with that. And I'm gonna tell you this, not to bring race into it, but this is something that has been going on in the Black community for a very long time. And with the leadership of the governors who are doing a piss poor job, is now starting to spread across the United States.
Yeah, Ryan, do you agree with an approach to increase the number of, units available in every city across America to help bring down housing costs?
I absolutely do. We need to change how we do this, and we need to fundamentally rethink what we've been trying to accomplish. Because I'm sure Joe would agree. We don't need more poor quality government housing. We need more innovative housing. We need Mitchell Lama housing. We need housing that works for the people, not housing that works for corporate contractors who are working with public interest so that everybody can get rich and we can all live in buildings with bad boilers. It's silly. We have solutions, we have money, and we keep printing more of it. We might as well put it towards the people.
Well, that is an excellent way to end. Joe and Ryan, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
It was a pleasure.
And thank you all for watching. Be sure to follow us at Bold TV on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and I'm sure I'm forgetting another one. We'll see you soon.